What's up, traders? In today's trade recap, I am going to go over anchored VWAP a lot. So hopefully this is helpful for you if any of you are curious about how to use anchored VWAP for good entries. But that's pretty much how I got most of my wins today. So I finished $610 green in my top one futures sim funded accounts. And then in my TopStep accounts, I finished up about $1,500. So let's walk through the trades and hopefully I can share some of the things, some of the tips that helped me. So this first trade I took was actually during pre-market. So this purple line is an anchored VWAP from the start of the London session. And we were kind of chopping around it, starting to make higher highs, higher lows. So we were trending up. And once we had this strong bounce off of VWAP and started to gain some momentum with a little bit of volume, I entered long, put my stop loss right below that previous wick low and targeted previous week's value area high. So good win there. That was the first trade of the day. Moving into the New York Open, my first trade was a loss. I actually did the first couple trades on the live stream with you guys, so hopefully you were able to catch that. But this was an aggressive trade. Really, we were coming into resistance, so should not have taken this trade in hindsight. And even right as I clicked the buy button, I knew that it was a mistake. But we had this resistance right around the 133, 135 area, and that's pretty much right where we rejected. So my thought, the 15-minute opening range hadn't even been set yet. But my thought was that we were holding above this previous day high. We had a little bit of a bounce off of it and started to gain some momentum. So I did go long, got stopped out there. So that was the first trade. Waited for the second trade. My initial bias today was bearish. I was a little thrown off just because we had been trending up all night. So initially, I wanted to take shorts, but since we were trending up, I kind of took a long on the first trade. So once we started to gain some momentum down, I quickly changed back to shorts, which was my initial bias with everything going on today. So this second one was really just a momentum trade. Honestly, I could have waited until it hit this 15-minute opening range low, broke out, retested, and took a short from there. I did enter a little bit above that. So aggressive trade, it did work out in my favor, but it could have also gone in the opposite direction. So on that one, I trailed my stop loss and got out right about here. So that was a 58-point trade. The second trade, it was a loss. My reasoning here was we were holding above value area low. So a lot of times the value area low, value area high, that serves as a range for the day. So since it was holding as support, I did take a long there, just kind of targeting VWAP since it was against the trend going down. Ended up getting stopped out there. So after that, I was a little more patient. We did have a strong downtrend, bounce off of VWAP. I didn't take that trade just because I felt like it would be catching a falling knife. It would have worked out, but I'm glad. I feel good about being patient. So here, I kind of drew this red dot even before, like as it was trending up, I drew this red dot on the live stream and said that this is an area of interest for me because that was where VWAP was kind of in that general area and there was lots of resistance there. Like if you look to the left, there was some support there. So I figured that would turn into resistance. It was also previous week's value area high. It was yesterday's value area low. So this was an area of interest that I drew out. I did not take the initial rejection off of that. And I did wait for the break down below the anchored VWAP from this low. So like I said, when I first started this video, I used anchored VWAP a lot today. The reasoning for not taking it initially, even though it did hit my pretty much exact area of interest, is because I would have had to put my stop loss way up above this previous wick at like 22,005. So I would have been like a 56-point stop loss, and I didn't like that level of risk. So when I waited for the confirmation of the downtrend and we broke below this anchored VWAP, which was anchored at this previous low, that's when I entered the short and I could put my stop above this wick, which is about 39 points, and that was a little bit better risk to reward. So on this one, I did end up trailing out. I took some off at the initial balance low. I took some off at Asia low, and then I got trailed out on the rest of it. I was kind of hoping for it to go a little bit lower, but overall, that was close to a 118 point trade. So that was great. From there, I did take a long as it got back above initial balance low. That was an aggressive trade. Honestly, probably shouldn't have taken it just because we had so much resistance above and we were kind of in an overall downtrend. So that was not a good trade. That's actually where I ended the live stream, and it was about $230 in profit, I believe. And then from there, took a break away from the charts. I did have an alert set on this initial balance low. So as you can see, the alert kept going off constantly. On what I did for this trade, you can see all these lines. I know it's getting a little bit crazy, but I did have an anchored VWAP at the new low here. And I'll delete this one now that we don't really need it since I showed you what I used that one for. This new low right here, if I hadn't waited for it to confirm that it was crossing below that VWAP, then you can see I would have gotten chopped out a lot and I could have had a lot of losing trades and gotten tilted. So I'm pretty proud of my patience on this. We kept rejecting the initial balance low, but we were kind of holding and bouncing off of this area. So once we got that confirmation that we were going down, that's when I entered short. I could have held it for longer, but that's where I hit my profit target for the day and finished out in those accounts at 1,500. So those were my trades for the day. Hopefully that helps give you a little bit of insight into how I use anchored VWAP for entries. When we're in a consistent trend, whether it's an uptrend or a downtrend, but today the downtrend was the example, I anchor the VWAP at the previous low and I wait for it to cross through that to show that sellers are back in control. And I do the same thing on the upside. If we're consistently trending up and I missed the first entry and I'm looking for an entry, I'll anchor it at the previous high, and as soon as it crosses over that anchored VWAP, then I know that buyers are back in control. So if you haven't added anchored VWAPs into your trading, hopefully that helps. And let me know if you have any questions about it. All right, have a great day, you guys.